All right. Welcome to a new year and a new LinkedIn Live series that we're going to kick off. This is actually the beginning of a series that we kicked off last year in 2020. Who am I? My name is Nico Johnson. If you're unfamiliar, I am the founder and creator of SunCast. SunCast is a media agency, among other things, and we like to create and curate content for your ears and eyeballs. And this day, we are coming back to LinkedIn Live, something we haven't done in a while. I think the last time we broadcast live was back at SPI, probably when we did this the Great Debate series. So if you missed it back during Solar Power International 2020, we hosted something called the Great Debate series. And the idea, the Great Debate conversation, the idea there was, what are the great debates, great conversations that are happening in the road or on the road towards this clean energy transition, the decarbonization of our grid? One of, if you weren't aware of it, the masterminds behind that idea was my dear friend, Tor Valenza. He needs almost no introduction, but Tor, aka Solar Fred, is one of the most followed personalities and influencers in the solar and clean energy sphere. And he's one of the consummate content creators, one of the guys that taught me a lot that I know about marketing in the industry. One of the first guys I knew who wrote about visiting and touring solar manufacturing facilities. And it's been my pleasure to get to know him. Without any further ado, I'm going to bring up Tor to the screen. What happened there? Everything went yellow on my side.
Nico, you're too kind. Thank you.
Good to see you, man. Good to see you.
You too. Can't wait to see you in person someday, very soon.
Oh, I look forward to it. I totally blew it because I was going to completely come onto screen with my latest filter.
Oh.
I was going to see.
This is live. Live. This is what happened. Oh my goodness. Are you a cat?
Oh, I'm not a cat. What's going on?
That's the correct answer. Yes.
So I couldn't resist. It's good to see you nonetheless. And I'm really excited. We have folks piling in to the green room right now because they want to be a part of this conversation. But Tor, before we start pulling folks up, starting with our friend Catherine onto the stage, I'd love to get your perspective. What is the Great Debate all about, and why are we excited about it?
The Great Debate started as just an idea that I had with you, and we did it at SPI to kind of bring attention to load flexibility versus energy storage.
Like software versus hardware as a way to manage
software versus loads. Hardware. Yeah. And, we had a great, I think we're going to have a link to the original debate, and it was very lively. It was between Extensible Energy and the people at Yada and the people at Promise Energy talking about their perspectives on the need for energy storage for demand charge management versus, Yada and their solution with energy storage. And then we had the installer's perspective, which was very cool because they're the ones that are installing it and choosing which one to use for their clients. So it was a really lively and fun debate. And it was just so much fun that you and I just started brainstorming about the other great debates, and we put that on LinkedIn. And here we are. We got a lot of topics that we already brainstormed. Yeah.
We told you a couple of months ago. Yeah, a couple of months ago we posted your input requested, and we got 35 comments and almost 5,000 views. Stephen Smith was a big contributor. Austin Williams from Point Low Power. I remember Amy Tuck made a ton of comments. And Brian Lynch over at LG. And it was one of those things that I just knew this is something that we need to turn into something more in-depth. And Kathy Schott at SPI, at the SETS team over there, reached out and said, hey, can we incorporate this into next year's SPI formally? So that's what we're doing. Right now, this is the unofficial launch of our Great Debate series, and we want you involved. If you've been following in the LinkedIn event, you'll see a link that many of you have already followed to join us inside the studio right here, right now, and tell us what you think are the great debates. So without further ado, I'm going to pull up my friend Catherine Mclean, founder and CEO of Dylan Green. Catherine, welcome to the show.
Hey, Catherine.
For having me.
It's great to see you. You are always one of the folks I turn to for insights into the world, how the workforce is growing, and the never-ending need for greater diversity. I'm going to pause for water. Catherine, I'd love to hear, what do you think are the great debates for 2021 as we get closer to this energy transition and 100% renewables?
Yeah, I mean, I guess in my world, I feel like the big debate I have every day is bringing oil and gas professionals into the renewable energy industry, and as a way to net diverse jobs, and who is going to be responsible within organizations to include them in to the conversation in the organization.
Yeah, I had that on my list actually this morning too, because I was, thinking about is this a free market issue? In other words, the horse and buggy industry went down because of the cars, and we didn't give them jobs. Should we be doing the same thing, for this industry? And so it's a really difficult question. I think that was what the Green New Deal was all about. And yet, the Republicans think that that's a terrible idea. So definitely worth debating that way. My personal view is that yes, we should, especially if we're going to start stranding assets early, those workers should have some subsidy while they transition, maybe education, training, and many other things. I mean, Lord knows if we're going to be boosting renewables as quickly as we're supposed to, we already don't have enough workers. So
That's right.
There's a lot of demand. We need a lot of training and a lot more workers.
Yeah, agreed.
Catherine, who do you think, if we look at this as a true debate that has one side that says, no, you're wrong, and the other side that says, well, I actually am not wrong, who are the macro debaters in this topic? Who would we curate that conversation around?
Yeah, I mean, I guess what it is I can have all the candidates in the world, but if I don't have any hiring managers, it's not going to do me or them any good. So I guess who we need to convince and who we need to get on is the hiring managers within the different developers. And I think, like I said, there's a lot of talk about wanting to have diversity within firms, but people just want like for like. So they want, so maybe 5 to 7 years in project development, but who's African American. And unfortunately, we don't have a very big pool of those people. So at some point, we're going to have to let other people in, either through oil and gas or banking and finance, diverse candidates, or candidates who are coming out of school who maybe don't have any experience in renewables, and giving them an opportunity. So when we get another 4 or 5 years down the road, we have those pools of African American talent and so forth at that 5 to 7 year mark, for example.
I love it. And you've got some fans in the audience here with our friend Mateo Harris agreeing with you on that. Catherine, I know, because we've done it already, we could spend an hour on this very topic, and I know that we will. I think that it's definitely going to make its way into our great debate series in some form. Thank you for taking time out of your busy Friday. I hope that you get a chance to wind down, and we will see you very soon, my friend.
Next,
we're gonna bring up Emily Wangerman. If you maybe caught Emily's episode from Light Source BP on SunCast recently, Emily runs biz dev for the Americas we'll say the Americas, but for US for sure. Hey, Emily, good to see you again.
Good to see
Emily,
you.
can you hear me?
Thanks for having me.
Oh,
There you are.
absolutely. You
you
look
guys
like
hear
you,
me?
yeah, absolutely. You look great. You look like you just walked out of the office. I feel like I'm slumming today, Emily.
I totally did, except for it's like it's business on top, party down below. I still have jammies on if it makes you have it.
for what it's worth, I've got my official office, that's what she said, pants on. Just
There you
got to
go.
keep it real. Love it. Emily, without you, I would know nothing about green hydrogen. So I'm hoping that you're going to bring the fire on the topic of green hydrogen at least. But I'd love to hear. You get to see utility deals and market movement months, sometimes years ahead of the rest of us. What do you think in 2021 is the great debate for clean energy?
I think it's going to be around ITC and financing. So the number one is going to be what's going to come through between the Republicans and the Democrats. What are they going to settle on? Are we going to get direct pay? Are we going to have an extension through 2025 or beyond? And is it going to be at 30%? Is it going to be at 26%? Is it going to be something else? And I really do think that difference of whether or not it's direct pay will shape the market pretty significantly.
Absolutely. How do you see the two sides shaping up? If you were to form, I'll call it a panel or a debate team, one is the other, what would that look like?
The two sides of where. So I think if you're putting a debate against the Republicans and the Democrats, I think that could be interesting because you're going to talk about where how much they're willing to subsidize something. And whether or not that federal subsidy, what does it do? There's some Republican interest in things like wind, but not necessarily as much in solar. So it'll be interesting to see how that shapes up. I also think from a market perspective, you're seeing a lot of storage. That it's going to be growing in the market. Will there be specific ITC for storage? Who's going to support storage, right? You've got a lot of utilities that want to support storage, and there's lots of utilities in Republican regions. So it'll be interesting to see who supports what, and hopefully you're going to get some Midwest engagement in supporting of that ITC kind of direct pay movement.
Yeah, I think related to that, Emily, is the what we're talking about here is subsidies, and oil and gas have had what over 100 years of some type of subsidies, and probably trillions of dollars over that hundreds of years. So I think one of the cool debates might be like, okay, nobody gets subsidies. In other words, we really are going to finally have a level playing field, or like you said, we're going to be having some type of subsidy extension, whether that's the ITC or direct grants and things like that. But I think the other side of it is, and in some ways you're on both sides of it, being Lightsource, BP, like what happens to those oil and gas subsidies? So that we definitely want to make EVs more attractive. We want to make, again, wind and solar plants with storage more attractive. And yet I think people are still wanting to build natural gas plants because they still see that as a bridge. But that's a 40-year bridge in a way that maybe we don't have time for.
Yeah.
So
one thing that just bring it back.
It is interesting that.
Go ahead, Emily. No, it's fine. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that our name of our company is unique, Lightsource BP, and you're absolutely right. There's almost, some people would say that there's almost a conflict there, but from what you've seen is BP has taken a pretty strong position to transition, and we're a huge part of that. But you're absolutely right. There are federal subsidies for oil and gas. I'd love to see some of that to go to renewables. I think at this point in time, the decision is there. The market has decided. So why don't we, support the market growth and accept that, particularly as it starts to get into storage and like hybrid systems like PV plus storage, where there's some real benefits of still continuing to invest so that you can address things like, the grid has to absorb all of this growth, and so you've got to have a lot of grid upgrades. Well, those are things that these projects are absorbing as well, and so subsidies help with addressing some of those kind of infrastructure needs that you're not necessarily accounting for when you only talk about renewables.
Yeah.
Emily, you are always a wealth of knowledge and information. And just like Catherine, I know that we could spend an hour on this topic or just extemporaneously talking with you. And perhaps we'll have to do that again soon. I want to bid you farewell and thank you so much for jumping on and giving us your insights. So
Thanks,
good
Emily.
to see you. Well, Tor, that sounds like actually very aligned with what we think is probably going to be our first topic, right? To ITC or to no ITC.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's a lot of people in here who think that renewables would be much better and everything would be simpler without the ITC. Because of that last, factoid that oil and gas have had things for 100 years, and so I think that that money that is already kind of dedicated to them, as Emily was suggesting, that would be great in our pot. And
that's right.
Hopefully hasten things a lot faster.
Well, I'd love to hear, what do you think if you're watching and thinking out loud? Man, I'd love to hear fill in the blank talk about that topic. I know that Stephen and Shale have talked about it a bunch on the interchange. I know that Jigar has talked about it on the Energy Gang show, as well as many other platforms. Who do you think would be a good representative or representatives of the two sides of this coin? Extend the ITC or let it go? I think that's going to be our first topic. Comment in the thread here on LinkedIn and let us know. We're going to bring up our next guest, who was the first one to reach out right after the original debate and honor us with his perspective on the great debate, Mr. Philippe Hartley. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks, Nico.
Hey,
Always good to see you, sir, the founder of cleanfinancing.com. Why don't you take 5 seconds and give a quick introduction, since I didn't have the chance to give you one, fitting one, and then would you outline what you believe are the great debates of the coming year?
Yeah, so first of all, in the How Much I Love You department, you can see behind me that it's dumping, and I'm in Vail, Colorado. It's supposed to be in the mountain right now.
Oh, my goodness.
This is how important this is to me, okay?
I love it. Thank you.
Clean financing essentially solves project financing issues for small to medium commercial throughout America. We're specialists in one particular type of financing, which is commercial PACE, which a lot of our colleagues here will be familiar with, but we're not, we don't die on our sword for it. We believe in the philosophy, horses for courses, meaning that there are different solutions that fit different issues. I'm passionate, as you know, Nico, and I've lobbied Tor for this. First of all, I'm passionate about the format, and second of all, I'm passionate about making a case for PACE. I'd love to get up in the ring and debate financing solar and storage and roofing against standard PPA methods of financing. So my reason for wanting to give a voice to PACE in this debate is that it is probably the most powerful way to finance efficiency, resiliency, energy independence in America since the invention of the mortgage. Mm-hmm. It leverages the 20% of property values that banks can't touch, and that represents, on the commercial side, about $1.5 trillion. And so far, we have been embryonic in our activity because we just started as an industry, but the potential is so enormous and it couldn't come at a better time.
Yeah, we've talked about how to frame the finance debate, because it's more than just, is it leases and loans and direct cash payments, but is there a structure that really unlocks consumer debt to make solar ubiquitous on every home, an appliance on every home? Philippe, your argument is yes, and that product is PACE. So
yeah, I think it's the most versatile. Again, I think, obviously there are other tools, but I'm going to make a great fighter. I'm going to sting like a butterfly.
I love it, man. You come.
Send me in that. I'll get you some eyeballs.
You are the greatest, Philippe. You are the greatest. Yes.
I love it. Well, we'll find a seasoned finance veteran who believes that PACE is a joke, and we'll pit you two together.
I'll find you the guys.
Oh, good. That's even better. Even better. Touche. Tor?
Ringer. So yeah, I mean, I think PPA versus pace. PPA versus pace. That's definitely a winner. It should be up there, and definitely needs to hear. I mean, I have my own issues about it, but in the sense that a lot of people don't own their buildings, so that's always going to be an issue.
Well, Philippe, we won't keep you from the sunny slopes of Vail. Thank you so much, not only for your time, but thank you for all the writing that you've done in support of our efforts.
It's been great.
Love it. Great team.
Yeah, man. Hey, if you would like to join us just like Catherine and Emily and Philippe, then I would encourage you follow the link right there, SunCast LinkedIn Live. It's a nice little bit.ly, tidy little link, and it'll put you right into our green room. I noticed a few of my friends jumped in and then had to drop, unfortunately. Hopefully, you'll make your way back. You know who you are. In the meantime, we're going to bring up another Tor. Before I bring up Anthony, anything that you'd like to add? Anything on your mind?
One of the things that I think I always see a lot of issues about is permitting. And so I would love to see a debate about if local permitting should stay local, or should we finally have some kind of national standard, and that will streamline a lot of things. And I don't know the technical nuances of that, but I would love to hear two people duking it out about the advantages and disadvantages of having local versus national permitting standards.
Well, the gentleman we're going to bring up right now, Mr. Anthony Gianfrancesco, also in the great state of Colorado, knows a thing or three about permitting. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Nico. Nice to meet you, Tor.
You too.
The permitting thing is really crazy, and there actually is a lot of work going towards some sort of national permitting database. I don't think we should be overcomplicating solar. I think it only gets in the way of getting it onto people's house. Because at the end of the day, why are we all here? Just to put solar on houses and get this technology out there. The one question I wanted to have for you two, or just a debate, how do we get over the early adapter curve for solar and now new storage? It's so expensive, right? Like, how do we get through that? Is it EVs? Is it sexy smart homes that are going to be coming out soon? Do we turn houses into like electric vehicles like Tesla with the EV?
That is I think that the question around that I would frame as the great debate is almost the chicken and egg question. Which came first? If we look back from 2050, which came first? EV mass adoption or solar and storage, right? Is it going to be that everyone has an electric car, and so now it all of a sudden makes perfect sense in their head to put solar on their house? Or are the solar industry and the finance industry going to figure out how to bundle EV chargers and EVs, including, into a seamless package that makes it a no-brainer? Because you can't put your EV on your mortgage unless you take out a second or you get some creative financing. But if we packaged it, there's a possibility now you could bring in increased EV sales, EV charger sales, batteries, and solar all in one as a homeowner is doing an electric retrofit or upgrade to their home.
Yeah, I mean, I think the early adopter stage is another issue because we're still hearing pushback, especially here in California right now, about solar still only being, and storage being only for rich people. Still, there's still that kind of myth. And as a result, we're getting a lot of pushback for NEM 3.0, which is coming up. So love to, and related to that, I would love to, I think maybe what would help would be, maybe reconsider the FIT, feed-in tariff. Because if that were a high enough feed-in tariff, or the value of solar, which I think a lot of people, have that formula and what goes into the value of solar formula.
Yeah. Before we let Anthony go, Anthony, you've spent a lot of time at Sunrun, and now since leaving Sunrun, working on plan sets and permitting. Dan Pickle asked, and I'm curious your thoughts, what about the solar app that NREL is developing to expedite solar permitting? Is it real? Are we going to see this process faster, better?
What do I personally think? I think having everybody
experience.
I think, my experience is I've only seen a presentation about it, completely honestly. I'm not trying to throw metaphorical shade onto NREL. But like, yeah, it's I haven't really seen anything other than listening to a presentation. I think a lot of people want to get involved because, I mean, the only reason I'm in business is because there are so many hoops to jump through. The requirements are hidden. Yes, it's technically all online, but it's not really online. And then you get a checker themselves, somebody at the utility or somebody in the office is just like, I don't think this should look this way, so I'm going to reject it. You cannot standardize for that. So it's really getting everybody in a room to agree, or even regionally agree, or whatever you want. I know the California electric license really applies in many other states. And so maybe everything that starts in California, we get a little bit more, just some sort of unification on what we're doing, what we're looking at, and how we're looking at it. I've seen some permitting that's written on a napkin. Some don't even need anything. And some are written, some have essays that nobody looks at. You know, when you look at some of these plan sets in Orange County, Southern California, nobody cares. Nobody's looking at that stuff. And it doesn't make the system more safe to have more words on a plan set. But there's vested interest from the major solar companies to make sure that this gets as standardized as possible. Sunrun, Tesla, Sonova, anybody else, their names are all over these projects to make permitting simpler, because it's just a black hole. And then it harms the customer company relationship when the customer is just like, what's going on with my solar system? I don't know. Like, here's your plan sets. Doesn't it look pretty on this nice PDF? Why are they rejecting it? I don't know. Nobody really knows what the interpretation of the code is, because it's all in an inspector's or somebody at the jurisdiction's head. They're not the enemy. They're just really overwhelmed. In 2021, there is going to be too much solar for any of the companies we have. We need more solar companies, more EPCs to build and get these things built. And I think AHJs are really going to struggle with the demands that's coming.
Yeah. It's great. And I agree with you. I actually do believe that this is a core debate that's happening. Mike Casey at TigerCom has done a couple of posts along with Jan Brandt about how the need for expedited permitting at a state level, and that we basically adopt a nationwide standard. It is one of the last mile adoptions that will allow your clients, the installers in the industry, to be able to be more efficient and drop the already, like now, the last piece that is kind of standing in the way, and that's the soft cost around, well, permitting is sort of a hard cost, but further reduce. There's no reason why, as Birchie said in one of our previous shows, there's no reason why you can do it for under $1 in Australia and it costs more than $2.50, $3 in the US, and it's all that soft cost. So Anthony, thank you so much for joining us. If anybody is interested, go to connectgbi.com to learn more about Anthony and his plan preparation services, outsourcing services. Thank you, sir. It's so good to see you.
Yeah, be well. Thank you.
Yeah. That brings up another thing in terms of, from a marketing perspective. I've had this debate with several people over the years, and that is, have we gotten past the early adopter stage? In other words, is solar mainstream yet?
Yeah.
And
I think no.
Yeah,
no, I've heard, Robbie Lamos at Clean.tech said, what kind of industry celebrates a 3% success rate, right? If we look at the total potential clients and we've got a 3% adoption rate, that's failure on every standard. So we've got a long way to go. We're not even close yet.
Yeah. So a lot of business for everybody, which is great.
Yeah, some an interesting comments here from Matthew. Also, thank you, Mohammed. Mohammed, I don't think we're going to touch on this one, but I do want to honor you for throwing a comment in there. It's true, the ITC cash grant will limit, without cash grant, will limit how much we have available in financing, and we are for sure going to be touching on financing as a core component to this great debate, because you can't have mass adoption and rapid rollout, not even with these, with Tesla or other electric vehicles, without palatable financing in the marketplace. Well, Tor, we've got one more in the green room, and then you and I can talk a bit about some of the other ideas that we have. I want to bring up, well, it looks like, Ralph, so I can see you in the green room, and it looks like your camera is not connected. So if you get that camera connected, I'll see your handsome face, and I'll pull you into the stream. And until then, Tor and I will just, there he is. Okay. Nice.
How are you doing, guys?
Hey,
Doing
Ralph,
awesome.
Good to meet you.
Ralph Stierle, the VP of Solaris Global, one of my favorite shipping companies in the U.S., a subsidiary of Fracht out of Europe. It's good to have you on the show, my friend. Thank you for always showing up, always giving your 2 cents. What would you like to contribute to this conversation? What is the great debate for the solar industry in 2021?
Well, I think we're in supply chain. So I think supply chain challenges are absolutely critical, what everyone is going through right now. Trans-Pacific traffic is very difficult. Sorry, guys, my little one has birthday today. I tried to.
It's totally fine. No worries.
So basically, the challenges right now, what the industry goes through, is really, really brutal. Rates are absolutely through the roof. Containers are not available. We have still 40 vessels in Los Angeles parked. So I think that is something that we are every day a challenge with, is to get stuff moving, truck shortage, and that's kind of
Well, what's the debate about that, Ralph? I mean, so that's one of the challenges, but what's the either or?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point. So basically, the either or is how do you prepare for it, right? So how do you really prepare for it, and how can you avoid it? So that's kind of do I buy DDP or do I buy FOB or X Works? So do I let the supplier take care about the challenges, or do I take care about myself? So that's
well, that's interesting, actually, and I think that our friend Andy at CEA would also agree. There is some debate here in terms of who owns the chain of custody for this product, and which ownership model is going to allow us to more quickly and readily facilitate getting these projects built.
That's exactly right. So that's always the challenge, is to analyze what works for your product, what works for your project. Is it do I let the supplier handle everything, or do I take care about myself, right? And that's kind of where you have to be, up.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Very interesting. Hey, Ralph, I'm going to let you get back to your birthday party,
no problem.
brother.
I'm sorry, guys. You caught me by surprise, but good to see you guys. I love your show. And
thank you.
You're definitely doing a great job. Sorry, guys.
Thank you so much, brother. No worries whatsoever. Great to see you, brother. Love that guy. He is one of the most energetic. You wouldn't believe it when he speaks Spanish. He sounds like he is actually from Mexico, and he's European. So, but I thought for a while that he actually was from Latin America. Hilarious. Dan Pickle actually says something here that I want to bring up as we begin to think about what other topics would we want to discuss. Dan says, what do you think about the idea that it's cheaper to install solar plus storage on resis for free than it is to modernize the grid with new transmission lines? And this, I think, is a worthwhile debate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think David Roberts is now doing a series about our transmission challenges right now. He
left Vox. That's right.
Left Vox, yeah. So he's got his own
at Substack.
Yes. Yep. But and as usual, he's taken a very complex topic and boiling it down to some really useful information for everybody. So I definitely think that again, that's like distributed versus centralized, and we're going to get a lot of money probably out of post-COVID relief. So we need a plan for where we're going to. What's that strategy? Are we going to be enabling distributed more? Certainly, we could throw in FERC 222. 2222.
Yeah, 22.
Into that debate.
The DERs,
as well.
Yeah. I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear a conversation where a utility executive defended the stance that we need to modernize the grid with new transmission lines, so that we could bring in the plethora of folks in our industry who would say, no, we don't.
Yeah,
we're good. Here's a new solution. We're going to piggyback, or we're going to leapfrog, not piggyback. We're going to leapfrog that technology, and I think that's what Dan is obviously suggesting here.
Yeah, Another one that I think, looking at our brainstorm and what we got out of LinkedIn from the last time is nuclear versus, again, 100% renewable energy and green, and whether that's worth the money. Again, and I think the NIMBYism there as well.
I would add to that as well, if we bring in nuclear to the discussion, it is more of a question as a debate of, is nuclear and hydro going to be considered as a component to the infrastructure build out that is our march toward clean energy 100%? Because up to date, you look at a country like Costa Rica that brags about having 100% renewables, and the vast majority of it is hydro. Yeah. Most of Central America is hydro, which is renewable as the rain falls until it doesn't, and then they've underbuilt their grid, and their peaker plants are working overtime, actually spending more on electricity. So there's a debate there about the cost effectiveness of what we might call 20th century clean energy and 21st century clean energy.
Nico, I don't know how we're going to pare this down to 4 debates. This is, we've got so many great topics.
I do, Tor. We're going to create a poll or 5, and we're going to have folks vote on what they think are the true great debates. Tor, have we nailed down where we're going to post that poll? I know we're going to obviously post it here on LinkedIn. Do we have a website or anything nailed down yet?
As far as I know,
folks probably think I'm leading you.
We don't.
We don't.
We don't. So that's one of our action items, is to create that poll. We could always do it. I think LinkedIn on this that's where to go. I think tune into Nico's feed, and we will plant the poll there.
Yeah, indeed. We've got. I'll just run some of the things that we have in our summarizing these ideas with others come across. So DERs versus and virtual power plants versus centralized storage. Like, what is the big storage debate? Is it short versus long duration storage? Is it DC versus AC coupled? Obviously, we talked about finance, 3PO versus loans. PACE is a consideration there. What's the right model? Yeah. We've toyed with the idea, and this is a fan favorite, SolarEdge versus Enphase.
Yeah.
ATI versus Nextracker. We'll see if any of those make it into the final list. Yeah. Anything else on your list that you wanted to raise as ideas to spark folks' thoughts?
Well, I mean, again, sort of along the same lines, I think there's still the debate about central versus string inverters, DC coupled versus AC coupled, again, from all that. I think what else did I love in here?
What about distributed versus utility? Which is the true, next generation scalable model?
Yeah, no,
are we going to continue to see huge acreage, or when will rooftop solar in the form of commercial and industrial solar finally take off? Stephen Smith posed one that I think would fit in that category of nuclear, and this is a lot of utilities now have to consider with their IRP, how are they going to phase out fossil fuels? Do they consider clean or some other version of combined cycle natural gas in part of their IRP for the next 5-10 years? So combined cycle versus PV plus battery energy storage, like which is the better value for utilities?
Yeah, and once again, there's the issue of stranding that asset if it's financially shown, which I've seen some studies that do show that it is better to just strand that asset. But who's going to pay for it? And is it going to be the ratepayers? Is it going to be the government? And then again, how's the government going to pay for it? So it's not an easy debate. We need some really good wonks who can be on both sides and explain things.
Emily chiming in from the peanut gallery of the LinkedIn comments. Thank you for distributed utility. We'll have to probe a bit more to see exactly what distributed utility is all about. Well, we are running up against the 40-minute cap that I told Tor we absolutely would not go past. I'm so grateful to Emily and Paul and Dan, Matthew, Mohammed, everyone who both contributed with comments. Catherine, Philippe, Ralph contributing, as well as Emily jumping in. Matteo jumped in and then had to jump back out, I suppose. Anthony, thank you for being guests on the show. As Tor said, if you're not already, please do follow us here on LinkedIn so that you will know when we post these provocative questions. You can chime in to our poll or however else we decide to present it. We will be presenting the very first of this 4-part series in March, and then every 8 weeks thereafter, all the way up to New Orleans. God willing, we'll all be vaccinated and see each other in New Orleans live, where we will do the final one of these live at SPI. That's right. You heard it here first. We're going to do this live at Solar Power International 2022 for the 4th and final of the great debate. So I'd love to hear. Please put in your comments, message me directly, send a pigeon, however you want to communicate. What do you think should be part of the great debate? Who would you like to see debate, and where are you going to be when you watch it live?
Yeah, please make some suggestions of people. It's not just the topics. We also, who would you like to see duke it out in a friendly way? We would love to see that those suggestions as well.
Absolutely. As you can see, comments are still coming in. So appreciate all of you who are watching. Thank you so much for joining us on yet another SunCast Live. This has been so much fun. Follow us here on LinkedIn and follow us in, what was the other one? We had 2 ways that they could follow us. Oh, my YouTube channel. What was the other one? There was one more. Emily's going to be laughing.
Your newsletter.
Not Emily,
Your newsletter.
Yeah, our newsletters. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So you can go to mysuncast.com or Tor Unthink Solar.
Yeah, mine is kind of asleep right now.
All right.
So just follow me at SolarFret. That's
we'll wake it up, and we tell all of our thousands of newsletter followers everything that we are thinking about asking your opinion on, and we've got 20,000+ here on LinkedIn that is going off. Timer never lies. We're at the end of our 40 minutes. We will see you next time on another SunCast Live Tour. Super appreciate
Thanks
you.
for pulling this all together. This has been
great. My pleasure. This is a lot of fun. Got a lot of good ideas for you, Kathy Schott, coming at you for the next debate series.